What's going on, vendors? Mike here with 720 Vending. Today we are going to do a repair video on my stack and grab. I've got my stack and grab here. This machine has been well used. It is time for a refresh on it. The wheels, the gantry, everything's been all well worn in. We'll do a quick test on it here. So I had to replace a gear, but as of right now it's kind of working, but it's definitely needs some repairs and upgrades, because as you can hear, it's pretty well worn out. The lift gear was stripped, and I think they got the cord that's too long on it. So we are going to go ahead and get this removed, and we are going to go ahead and get I'll show you how to refresh the gantry. So we'll start by pulling this out of here. We do have to shut the power off to the machine. What I'm actually going to do is I'm going to skip that. I'm just going to unplug the gantry and pull it out. That way I still have some light to give you some perspective here. So let's go ahead and get this going. Two connections here hold the whole thing together. There is a retention piece over here on this side to keep it on the rail. Someone had already bent it. I will be fixing that before it goes back in. Easy way to bring this out. Alright, I'll go ahead and get this squared away, and we are going to go ahead and get started on tearing this apart and rebuilding it. I've got a parts bin to put all the screws into. Precision screwdriver set, a regular Phillips head screwdriver, some needle nose to pull off some clips, new rope. I'm using paracord. It's the 325 paracord. It'll definitely make a stronger lift rope, as well as the rebuild kit. There are 3D printed parts in this that I printed myself because they shorted me on the parts kit I got off of AliExpress. So let's go ahead and get started in here. First thing I want to do is I want to get this cover off of here. As you can tell, I'm losing a wheel. So there are 4 screws that hold this cover on. And I'm going to put them into this box, that way I don't lose them and I keep them separated. Once these 4 screws come off, this plate comes off. I'm just going to set it aside. I'm going to start, but I'm actually going to remove the claw to get it out of my way. And for this, I'm going to need a small little flathead to disconnect the 2 connections here. Dang bit did not want to come out of the hole. Simple connection there. We've got 2 screws that hold this bracket on that help with the strain relief on the claw. And then you've got 3 screws around the claw to hold it in place. Claws out of the way. Future video, I'm probably going to be replacing this with another coil and claw, just because I would like something a little newer, a little stronger. So I'm going to set that out of the way for right now. And then to remove the trolley from the gantry, there is a retention bracket here. This bracket will keeps the gantry on here. So you're gonna, once you get it off of there, you're gonna tilt down this one thing, get it off the back 2 wheels. This wheel has fallen off due to missing a clip, and I did have to replace this gear that was stripped. The kit comes with new drive shafts, so it comes with the new gear. If you try and get this kit, you cannot get these parts from LAI. They have discontinued parts and support for this machine, so you will have to reach out to third-party vendors. I did find my kit on AliExpress, and despite them saying that the kit was complete, it is not. And because of that, I figured out a way to 3D print my own parts. So this is how I did it, and I'll show you how to do it, everything that I did on here. So I'm going to go ahead and move the gantry out of the way here. And now we're going to focus on the motors here. So got to get these off. What I'm actually going to do first is I am going to remove this bolt so I can unstring it. By removing this, it allows me to take all of the string out. And we are going to go ahead and get started on tearing this thing down. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this E-clip. Set this aside. This will become spare parts for the E-clip. Off comes this wheel. It is not going to be reused. There is a 2 millimeter grub screw in there. We are going to go ahead and remove that so we can get the wire off. Save your grub screws. This is a grub screw. Save them. They are perfect spare parts. You will need them in the future. Maybe not for this kit, but definitely keep them. They are not easy to come by. As you can tell, this is not easy to come apart. I'm going to go ahead and pull this other E-clip off. This is not easy to pull apart. As you can tell, this has been very much abused and used up. Very much worn out. Like I said, we are going to be upgrading this to new parts. As you can tell, this one has just completely stripped and destroyed the gears. Where's that grub screw? Here's the grub screw for this one. I will be saving these grub screws as just spare parts. Save this, you're gonna need it because you got to be able to get everything restrung. We got another E-clip here. And then you can just push this gear out. As you can tell, these are very well stripped up, very well used. We are going to go ahead and get this squared away. So now that I've got the drive shafts out, these shaft sleeves are worn out as well. Those are going to go. I've got new switches for here, but first I've got to get the back end of this off. So that is going to be removing these 3 screws. These 3 remaining screws to remove the cover. Yes, replacing these parts is intensive, but definitely it's needed every now and then. The machines wear out. They get a lot of use and abuse. So depending on your machine, it'll be depending on how often you have to do this. So let's go ahead and get this out of the way. A lot of brass copper shavings on this because of that gear being torn up. So I'm going to make a note here. So you've got red and white going to white going to red. Red going to red black. This one white going to orange. This blue going to orange black. That is the setup for this particular style of motors. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect them. Actually, I'm going to take a picture of them first. That way they go back on in the right order. So it looks like, if I'm looking at these are both 48 volt DC motors. This is an original motor. This one's been replaced. And if I'm looking up at this one on the gantry here, that one's been replaced as well. So replacing them is definitely not the worst, but sometimes it happens and it needs to be done. So what I'm going to do is, like I said, I'm getting these out of the way so I can disconnect the motors from the gantries. These are held on with 4 screws. 2 on this side, 2 on the other. There is a lock washer with them. I'm going to stick them in this bucket here. turn this back over, take out these other 2 screws here, and this will separate that back plate as well, which will give me access to put the new sleeves in and remove the old ones. The 2 coming from this side do not have lock washers on them. Oh, this one does. One of them does. So it looks like this thing has been apart before for repairs. This is my first time doing this. So now that those are all out of the way, as you can tell, these are pretty well worn out. Those 2 get out of the way. I'm gonna hit this with a wire brush real quick just to try and clean some of that some of those shavings off. Let's see, I got a smaller brush here. That's definitely a lot cleaner than it was. Actually, no, these motors may be all original. So it appears these motors are all the same. LEA 70. Yeah, they're all the same motors. So this part's worn out, these are all worn out. We are going to go ahead and take 2 of the parts that I took out. This is one of the ones that came with the kit, but they only sent 1 in the kit, so I needed 2. So here's my 3D printed ones. Those came out really nice. Well, those fit very nicely in there for 3D printed. So we're going to go ahead and get this start getting this reassembled, and then I'm going to change out these parts down here, change out these switches, and it did not come with new wheels for these, so these will get reused. But first we're going to go ahead and get this motor reattached. There's that one. Okay, so there's that. Now we're going to get the other 2 on there. really nice on there now, especially with those new shaft seals. Get the old parts out of the way. Let's let's compare this one to this. This one does look a little bit smaller, but it is also a little bit thicker as well, so let's see how well it does. If everything lines up, we're going to be doing great. I won't be using this string. It is too short for my claw machine. So I've got my new shafts. This one's our drive one. This one is our lift. Those look like they're lining up beautifully on there. But what I'm going to do first is, you said this kit came with new switches, so why not change out the switches, because we're going to be in here anyway. These come off with 2 little screws. Just set these right here for just a moment. You're going to then disconnect these. Those come off of there. Here's your new switch. Goes back on the normally open connection as well as the common. Keep your plate aligned. Your two existing screws go back to where they were. Get those nice and tight back down. Cycle it, make sure the switch clicks like it should. So this one is your claw position switch. This one tells you when the claw is up. Well, it's not going to be that one, it's going to be this one right here. That way it gives you plenty of travel on it. Before I take this apart, I'm going to go ahead and pop these off. These may be difficult to try and get off, because if they've been on there for a long time, they're not going to want to come off. Same thing with this one. It takes 2 screws. This switch may require some adjustment once it's back on the machine, just because of the way it's positioned. So do make note of how the original switch was laid out. So this one's going to go back on here, and the common's going to go back on this one. So it does look like this part here is too far over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pliers And I'm gonna bend the end of this wire up here. Actually, that's not gonna work either. There we go. I'm gonna get this all squared away like this. I'm going to make sure that this comes up and sits properly. You want this when the claw comes up to turn off this switch. It has to know the switch is on, or it has to know the switch is in the right position for everything to work right. So now we've got this all done. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paracord here, and I'm going to measure out 56 inches of paracord. That way I know how long it needs to be. The paracord's got to be 56 inches. One, to give the length for what it needs for the machine to wrap it up all properly. So now I've got 56 inches of claw length. That's going to be the length that the machine calls for. Here is my new wheel. There's the spot for my grub screw. It does come with new grubs, as well as spots for the grubs to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this prepped in here. Sometimes they stick. It happens. So I've got my grub screw started in here. It will cut its own teeth into the plastic. Feeding this in here can be tricky. Be patient with it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a lighter to melt the end of this real quick. That way it all stays together. And give it one tiny little knot so that way it stays put. we're going to do is on this part here, I'm going to find where this little notch is here to put the claw, I mean to put the rope string, and we're going to go ahead and tighten this down. It'll go into that little notch. And it'll keep everything nice and tight. So this goes up over here, back down here. And then I'm going to feed this down through here. And it's going to come out through here. Everything's looking nice so far. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here. I'm going to take this brand new gear that comes with the kit, put its grub screw in, That's good enough. So now I'm going to take this and have this teeth go towards the inside. Did not mean to tighten that screw down that much. And it's got its own little screw to drop into as well. And then now that will hold the gear in place. And so now we're going to take one of my 3D printed wheels. It goes on here. E-clip to hold it on the shaft. Getting these E-clips on can be a pain, but we're going to do it anyway. There's one, and I did just drop a shaft. So these two wheels on this particular drive, they need to be free spinning. They cannot be grabbing, they can't be locked onto the shaft. So, like I said, these wheels I 3D printed. Those are looking so much better already. We're going to go ahead and get this one on as well. Ow. Nice free spinning. Up next is the drive shaft. This one is for this drives the trolley back and forth on the gantry. Again, we're going to take the grub screw, pre-install it into the gear. Make sure you install it straight. This is a plastic gear. And this actually has dimples as well for your drive shafts, for your screws to go on, to keep everything lined up. So now this shaft is firmly locked in place. Free spinning. We got 2 more wheels. These wheels do require grub screws. If your kit did not come with enough grub screws, reuse some of your grub screws from your previous setup. As long as you haven't stripped them out, they are good to go again. So go straight into the straight in. You're gonna thread it. Your new ones go on. Line them up with the holes that are in the shafts. That way everything stays lined up. Such as that. If you would like the 3D print files to the drive wheels I designed and the shaft sleeves, they will be posted up on here on printables.com for you to print on your own. I'm happy to help out the community on that. The kit I got for the rebuild was from AliExpress. This just happened to line up with the LAI Games setup, so we're good on that part. This thing's looking awesome. All I can say right now is this is looking awesome. Now I'm going to take my picture and I'm going to reconnect my wires here. So red and white to red goes to orange black. White goes to orange. It is very important you put these back in the same order they came off in. That way your machine functions correctly. Oops, I messed that one up. This one goes to red. This one goes to red white or red black. The blue goes to orange black. And this white goes to orange. There, now all the wires are reconnected. Those are going to stay up and out of the way. Now I'm going to bring the cover back over here. We're going to flip this over and get the cover put back on here. Not that one. These 4 smaller screws are what are used to attach this back plate. Don't tighten them all down completely until you have gotten everything lined up. This large screw goes to this point here. This is what locks it onto the rail. Just put it on loosely for right now. Do not tighten it because you still need to get it back onto the carriage. Let's see here. Let's go ahead and clip this off. It does appear that I will need to make this hole a little bit larger, and I will round it out so that it doesn't cause any damages. This is a heavier duty string. So let's see here. 9/64 ought to do it. That does appear to be a riveted sleeve. So we are going to go ahead and get this all deburred. Because we definitely do not want this cutting the cord. So I'm going to go get these out of the way. New cord's going to go through. Give that a really good knot just to make sure nothing's going to come loose. Now it's all looking really nice. I'm going to go ahead and reattach the claw. Here's our claw. Here is our stress relief. No more need for the grub screw, so we're going to set that out of the way. Claw gets its power from these two terminals here. Red to the top, white to the bottom. It really doesn't matter because it is a DC magnet basically, so it doesn't really matter what the polarity is. But we are going to go ahead and put this back on here. This goes on as such. Here goes this one. And then number 2. This is all reattached. I will wait on reattaching the front of this until I get it back in the machine and make sure everything's functioning. I want to watch everything in operation. So what we are going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and get this reattached to the gantry here. This goes on as such. Get that hook over there. As you can see, everything is hanging very well. Okay, so let's go ahead and get you hung back up in here. This is heavy, so take your time with it. So this end has to go up first. This end will slip over and come back on here. As you can tell, I've got the gantry rehung. I will go ahead and reconnect the cables. I'm going to go ahead and hit the test button and let's see what it does. Well, that's a success. So let's see how well it works. That is actually very smooth operation. Very nice. I will be adjusting it to get the claw out, get the coil out of the claw. So I will see what I have to do to adjust that. Oh, I see what I did. I messed up. So I'll get this reattached and get that fixed up. But that's how we go ahead and rebuild the gantry. That is looking so much better, and even with 3D printed gears, it is actually moving very smoothly. I do want to thank you all for watching. Have a great day, everybody.